O come, Emmanuel. That is what my wife and I kept saying last night at the mall. For the first time since literally I cannot remember when, we went to an actual store to Christmas shop. Why? Because we thought we might want to see what purgatory is like, and I don't think it was too far off. If you've never been to the mall on Christmas Eve, you are missing a blessing. If you love traffic, mean people, short fuses, crowded stores, long lines, that is for you. And I found myself there last night, no kidding, it was amazing. And what made it so ironic for me is like everywhere we went, you see in different stores and around the community, like these Christmas taglines like joy to the world, and my favorite last night, peace on earth. There was not a lot of peace last night with all the honking, and well, there were other things I can't mention here, but it was crazy. If you've never been shopping on Christmas Eve at the mall, just try it next year. Put it on your calendar right now. Try it and be blessed. It was definitely an experience. We actually went because we're in a lot of trouble with presents. It's just the only reason you go to the mall on Christmas Eve is because you're desperate. And we were desperate. And we went. And what we saw there has forever changed our lives. It was something. And it was like, I kept thinking about this all night last night as we were walking around and standing in line and dealing. It was hilarious. But what I kept thinking, like, this is like a microcosm of our world. It's a little bit chaotic. It's busy. There's something coming at you all the time. You always got to be on focus because, I mean, it was pretty crazy. So I was like, this is like a microcosm of our world, because our world has a lot of noise. Our world has a lot of interruption. Our world has a lot of distraction. Our world requires a lot of our attention, more so now than I'm sure at any point in our lifetimes. With email, text, we're scrolling through social, we get news alerts, right? I mean, it's crazy. So last night I just couldn't help but to think, this is like all this other joy to the world, peace on earth. And like what I'm seeing was not joy or peace. And then I think, man, a lot of what's happening in our world today is kind of like that. It's a little hectic. It's a little busy. It's a little crazy. It's hard to turn it off. There's a ton of other people around demanding our attention. There's always a ding, an email, a text, something, right? And I thought, man, that's kind of like our world right now, strangely enough. We know that the children of this generation are experiencing something never before experienced in human history. Really, those who were born within the last 15 years are kind of a test generation about what it's like to live with constant technology, constant activity, constant opportunity for something to vie for your attention, right? Like when I grew up way back in the day, I had what was known as a play-based childhood. I actually saw other people in my neighborhood, right? Like it was a play-based childhood. We grew up with lawn darts and slip and slides and Twister. Anybody remember the game Twister? Come on now. That'll break up your family, okay? I don't recommend it, but we had what we call play-based childhood. In fact, think about this. Every generation in human history has had a play-based childhood up until the last 15 years. Over the past 15 years, we've seen a generation of young men and women who have a phone-based childhood. Instead of personal relationships, they experience more digital relationships. They grow up in a world now where their attention is drawn by countless pings and messages and opportunities. It's just a radical shift in our society, and we've all kind of been sucked into that vortex to the extent that, check this out, over the past 15 years, anxiety is up 134%, depression up 106%, ADHD up 72%. So here's what we know to be true of our world today. This is like true across the world, not just the United States, all around the world. I think many of us are living our lives week in and week out almost like shoppers on Christmas Eve. Like it's a little hectic, it's a little busy, always something to focus on, something to scroll through, something pinging at us. We live in a world where anxiety is up, stress is up, depression is up, ADHD is up. We live in a world where there's not a lot of peace. And we see that phrase this time of year, peace on earth, right? There's not a lot of peace. Maybe you walked into the room tonight, or maybe you're joining us online tonight, and you feel that. You feel an absence of peace. Maybe it's just the stress of the holiday season and food and family, and you know tomorrow you're going to see that weird uncle. Tomorrow is Weird Uncle Day, also known as Christmas or Thanksgiving. Those are the weird uncle days, right? And so maybe it's the stress of the holidays. Maybe it's something within your family. There's a burden you carry because of something with one of your children, or maybe there's a broken relationship. Maybe it's something with your health. Maybe it's something with your marriage, your finances. Maybe, it's the loss of a loved one this past year. Maybe, frankly, even the past couple of years, but you just feel it more this time of year. As much as we see these taglines around us, joy to the world and peace on earth, the reality is for most people around the world today, there's not a lot of peace. There's a lot of anxiety, man. There's a lot of stress. There's just a lot to focus on, a lot vying for our attention. So I think it's important for us to understand tonight, and my encouragement to you is just to lean into the beauty of Christmas, because Christmas really is about experiencing true peace. And that's my hope for you and your family this Christmas, that you would know peace. And I know some of you are like, wait a minute, in terms of like what I'm facing personally, or just, all of the habits I've built into my life in terms of everything that's on the table for me that I have to worry about, or everything that's coming at me that I'm scrolling through, or whatever the case may be, you're telling me I can have peace? You're telling me that, yes, I'm telling you, you can have peace. In the mall at Christmas Eve, you can have peace. Because see, we're not the only generation in human history that's been without peace. We're not the only people, even though the circumstances of our struggle is different, like the struggle itself is not. We're not the only people who've ever struggled with peace, been without peace, felt strain and stress. All the way back even to the nation of Israel, when God was leading his people through judges and kings and prophets, right? Like there were seasons of tremendous stress and strain and seasons of anxiety. One of those happened to King Ahaz when there were armies partnering together to overthrow Ahaz and his family and his government, and he was fearing for his life and his nation's fearing for their lives. And there's this very real pressure and this very real strain and stress. There was an absence of peace. And God sent the prophet Isaiah to King Ahaz. Here's what he said. No, you're going to be all right. You're going to be okay. Here's why. A child will be born for us. A son will be given to us, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father. You ready for this? Prince of Peace. God said to his people who were under tremendous stress and anxiety, I've got you. I know it looks bad. It feels like insurmountable what you're facing. I know there are days you feel like the walls are closing in on you and there's no way out. But God's like, I got you. I promise you, I got you. And here's the evidence that I've got you. There is coming a day when a child will be born, a son will be given, and he will be a counselor of wonder, a mighty God, an everlasting Father. And yes, he will be the Prince of Peace. And you and I now live in a day and an age where, guess what? 2,000 years ago, through Jesus of Nazareth, that child was born, that son was given, and we get to look back on what God has done to prove himself to Israel and us. And that whatever season we're in, God has given us a solution to our greatest problem. The solution is a son. A child born, a son given. Because you see, Jesus, the Messiah, lived in human history. He lived a sinless life, a perfect life. He died on a Roman cross. And 3 days later, he rose from the dead, and he conquered death, and he conquered sin. He conquered that which is most problematic for us, our own rebellion against God. It's our own fault that we deal with so many stress points and so many failures and faults, and that we deal with so much brokenness in our world. It's our fault. But God, through his unconditional love, has given us a way through that, a way out of that. It's through Jesus. It's a child born, the son given. The solution is the son. And the son came, Jesus born 2,000 years ago, verified in human history, and he took upon himself the burden of our sin. And he took the wrath of God for us in our place, so that if you'll put your faith in Jesus tonight, he will save you, he'll forgive you, and he will give you, in the place of your sin, he will give you everlasting life and eternal peace. That's why Isaiah went on to say this: though the mountains move and the hills shake, my love will not be removed from you, and my covenant of peace will not be shaken. Isn't that good news? See, this peace that comes through Jesus is a peace that's not conditioned on your circumstances. It doesn't matter how bad things get or how difficult life becomes. It doesn't matter how shaky your circumstances or how busy the mall. Listen, the peace that God gives is a supernatural peace. It's not a conditional peace. It's not a circumstantial peace. It's a peace given through God's supernatural power and through the Son that was born for us. And Isaiah said this is a peace so that even when the mountains shake, no, that peace does not go anywhere. Jesus said this during his earthly ministry. He said, it's peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. I don't give to you as the world gives you, selfishly. No, I give to you generously. And so don't let your heart be troubled or fearful. Here's what I want you to understand tonight. If you don't have a personal relationship with God through Jesus, if you've never believed that he lived and he died for you, that he rose from the dead, if you've never asked him to come into your life, if you never asked him to forgive you of your sin, your waywardness, your brokenness, your rebellion, listen, today, I beg you to do that. Because can I tell you the truth here? This is the truth. There's no peace without the Prince of Peace. There's no other way for you to have peace. You can have money but no peace. You can have a great career but no peace. You can have a lot of things going good for you but still be devoid of true peace and fulfillment in your life, because, listen, you're made for a relationship with God. And if you've never asked Jesus into your life, you've never committed to him, if you've never trusted him, then listen, you don't have eternal life, and therefore you can never have peace. There's no peace without the Prince of Peace. But tonight, if you'll receive Jesus into your life, if you'll ask him to save you, he will. And I don't know how to describe that moment of salvation other than to say it's a supernatural moment where the supernatural God of this world gives you instantaneously at the moment of your new birth supernatural peace. I don't know how to describe that moment. Listen, I don't even care tonight if you're religious. I don't care if you think you're a good person. I don't care about anything. Here's what I care about. Do you have a relationship with Jesus? Do you know God? Because if you don't, when you ask him to come into your life and you commit your life to him, he gives you this peace. It changes your life. And it's something that's hard to describe until you've experienced it, but there's a lot of us in this room that have experienced it. And when you do, there's a peace that stabilizes your life and your future that is truly supernatural. It's not based on your circumstances. It's not based on how great things are going. No, the reality is the peace of Jesus, the Prince of Peace, is given at all times. And if you are a believer in Christ tonight, I just want to encourage you in all of your Christmas celebrations to lean into his peace, no matter what you're facing. Because the peace of the Prince of Peace is supernatural, given for you to sustain you in every season and circumstance. I'm mindful of a great man years ago named Horatio Spafford. He lived during the 1800s. He was born in the 1820s, and he became a successful businessman in Chicago. But he lost almost everything he had in terms of his earthly possessions in 1871 in the Great Chicago Fire. And he was a believer in Jesus, and so he began to regroup coming out of the fire, and he was a friend with the great Dwight Moody, who was a famous evangelist, and Moody was about to travel over to England to hold a series of revival meetings, and given the fact that Horatio Spafford had lost about every earthly possession, he thought he would go with his friend Dwight Moody and help support him during this revival and see what the Lord might have for him, maybe a new beginning in England. And so he put his wife Anna and his 4 daughters on a ship and sent them off to England, where in a few weeks he would meet up with them as he was making final arrangements there in Chicago. And after a couple days of sailing, as the ship drew near to the coast of England, just off the coast of Ireland actually, the ship that his wife Anna and his 4 daughters were on was struck by an iron-carrying vessel, and it sank not far off the coast of Ireland. Most of the passengers tragically died, but Spafford's wife Anna made it to England. When she got there, she was able to send a telegram with just 2 words back to Chicago. The 2 words were simply these: saved alone. They lost their 4 daughters. Horatio Spafford gathered what he could, and he sailed to England as quickly as he could to meet up with his wife. And as he sailed across the Atlantic Ocean, when he made it to the coast of Ireland, the captain of the ship told him of the place as they passed over where his daughters drowned. Literally, as he passed over the place where the bodies of his 4 daughters were buried. He leaned into the Lord, went back to his room, and later that evening he wrote the words to one of the most famous hymns the world's ever known. He sat down and he wrote these words: when peace, peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, you have taught me to say, it is well with my soul. You say, how does a man who just lost his 4 daughters write something like that? Can I tell you? It's not because he was a supernatural man. It was because he had a supernatural peace. And I can't explain that to you unless you have it in Jesus. But if you have Jesus, you have the Prince of Peace, and he gives you a supernatural peace so that whatever you're facing tonight, he will meet you where you are. He will place you on a firm foundation, and he will see you through it. And Horatio Spafford made it through, rejoined with his wife Anna, and he began to support the work of Dwight Moody, and no doubt they never got over on this side of eternity the loss of their daughters, but they were also not defeated by their circumstances. Not because of some incredible human characteristic, no. It's because of the supernatural peace of Jesus that grounded them. And tonight, I just want you to know that's what Christmas is all about. Whatever you're facing, whatever you're going through, the Prince of Peace has come to die for you, to be raised from the dead for you, to secure eternal life for you, and to give you peace that surpasses all understanding.